We're going to actually start in a subcommittee, so we're not taking roll until we go back, right? So actually, we're going to start, we're going to have a subcommittee, so we're going to start with Senate Bill 1048. Since we have a prompt senator here, we're ready to roll. Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was concerned my main witness wasn't going to show up, but he finally walked in the room. That's good.
You know, I was making sure that you had
Yeah,
that.
well, thank you very much. I was going to text him, and then he just, perfect timing. As always with the auditor, he has perfect timing. I'm Senator Travis Fitzwater, District 10, and bringing before you all Senate Bill 1048. Thanks for the time. Appreciate the committee and the members. This is a state auditor change, a bunch of state auditor changes to give them more authority for transparency in our local districts. The auditor's office is here, so I'll kind of relieve myself as quick as possible so that they can kind of speak to the specifics. But some of the changes that I think are important is that it allows them to have subpoena power in more processes in their offices, and that helps with transparency. It helps with getting the information they need in the investigative stage of their audits. It also allows more audits to happen as needed if the law enforcement or others request one, and they also pay for audits where that hasn't been done in the past, and that makes more sense in the bill too. So there's a bunch of kind of technical fixes, but it also gives more authority over the auditor to provide transparency and accountability to our local jurisdictions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for our senator? No. Seeing none. Anybody here to speak in favor of? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for taking the time to hear Senate Bill 1048. I'll just expand on a little bit of what Senator Fitzwater said about the bill. The biggest part of it is currently we have the power to audit state agencies, school districts, counties that don't have their county auditor, and a handful of other entities like TIFs and TDDs. We receive regularly, and we're allowed to receive and investigate reports of improper governmental activity for other political subdivisions in the state, such as cities, fire districts, road districts, larger counties that have their own auditor that we don't currently have the ability to audit. And we're allowed to investigate those allegations of improper governmental activity, but that's where our authority ends. So if we conduct an investigation after receiving a whistleblower complaint and we determine that it's likely that fraud is occurring or that some other problem is occurring in one of those political subdivisions, we do not have the authority to conduct an audit without either having the citizens of that locality gather signatures on a petition or with an invitation from the governing body of that locality. And what we found is it's unlikely if the fraud, especially if the fraud is ongoing, it's unlikely that we're going to be invited in to conduct an audit. And asking citizens to spend time to go gather signatures simply so they can have us conduct an audit of a political subdivision seems like a big ask of those citizens. So the biggest thing that it would do is, after we conduct an investigation, which we're already allowed to conduct, if we do determine as a result of that investigation that it's likely or that the allegations of improper governmental activity is credible, then we would have the ability to go in and conduct a full audit. It would also allow us to, so that this bill, a very similar version of this bill just passed out of the House today, 145-0, but it would add a definition of what improper governmental activity is into the statute so that that's defined and something that people understand. The subpoena power is, we currently have subpoena power when we're conducting an audit, and we use that regularly in order to get cooperation from either witnesses or people subject to the audit, but we also use it when we need to gather records from like financial institutions. A lot of times we'll need bank statements and bank records from a bank and they actually want to be subpoenaed to provide that information, because otherwise, they have confidentiality issues with their clients. So this would extend the subpoena power of the office to the investigative process, which will make that process more effective and speedier. Right now, if we had an uncooperative entity under investigation, the only recourse we have would be to sue them and go to court to try to get a subpoena through a legal, through the court process or through a lawsuit, which is a lot more expensive for the state and extends the timeline of the investigation. The other big thing it does is it clarifies records that we obtain during the investigation are protected, just like audit work papers. That's one of the issues we have. We want to make sure that our whistleblowers are protected, and currently, a whistleblower can make an anonymous complaint, but in some cases, due to the nature of the complaint, the complaint itself is not protected. So even though we can not release the name, a lot of times by the nature of the complaint, it's easy to determine who the complainant was, because there's only maybe a single person that would have the requisite information to have made that complaint. And so it would give additional protections to those documents and work papers that we use during the investigation, similar to what they are during an audit. So those are the big components of the bill. I'm happy to answer any questions about them.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for our witness? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to testify in favor of? Seeing none, do we have anybody who would like to testify in opposition to? Seeing none, half the place stood up. No, I'm just seeing none. Is there anybody here for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so
Are we going to do executive session at the end?
now. Okay. So right now, because we do have a quorum, we're going to go ahead and go into executive session. Do I have a second? Oh, I'm sorry. Secretary, please call the roll.
Esslinger,
Here.
Brown, Beck, Black, Crawford, Mosley, Trent.
We have a quorum, so I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we are in executive session. So now I move that we bring Senate Bill 817 before the committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
The bill is before the committee, and I move that we do pass Senate Bill 817. Do I have a second? Thank you. As a reminder, this is Senator Brown's bill we heard last week that would provide a trained professional with at least 3 years' work experience that does not license or regulate through occupation to receive a non-renewable temporary license that expires after 2 years, and at which time they must meet all licensure and application requirements set forth in Missouri statute and rule. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Esslinger,
Aye.
Brown, Beck, Black, Crawford, Mosley, Trent.
By a vote of 4-0, you have voted do pass on Senate Bill 817. So now I make a motion that we move out of executive session and resume our regular hearing. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. All against? We have left executive session and resume our regular hearing. So now we have 2 more bills left, and we're going to now hear Senate Bill 1340. Senator Bernskoetter.
My name is Mike Bernskoetter, representing the 6th District, Senate Bill 1340, as this legislation is ambulance districts industry policing itself. It requires members of an ambulance district board of directors to complete 3 hours of continued education for each term in office, and it also requires an audit of themselves every 3 years and to make the result public. And I have some people that can testify to more of the details of it if anybody's got any questions.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for the senator? Seeing none, I'd like to testify in favor of. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brent Hemphill. I'm here on behalf of the Missouri Ambulance Association. So I want to thank the senator for presenting this. This is an interesting bill in that we're trying to clean our own house within a lot of these ambulance districts, and the genesis behind this was originated last year from Representative Chris Dinkins, who called me and essentially said Reynolds County Ambulance District woke up today and says we're going to no longer provide ambulance service in our district. The board was wanting to resign. The administrator was hard to find. We had folks that literally didn't show up to run this ambulance service, and so as you can only imagine, if this were to occur anywhere else in the state, it's obviously life-threatening if you have a heart attack, stroke, or a car wreck. And so we wanted to come forward to try to figure out ways that we can improve ambulance districts in this state to make sure what they do when they run for those districts, when they take the position of administrator, that they be well prepared to run an ambulance district, because it's a life-saving issue for folks in their district. And so what we do is we require auditing, we require training of the ambulance districts and the administrator, and then we empower the Department of DHSS, Bureau of EMS, to come in and pull licenses for ambulance districts that aren't doing the bare minimum of running the basic necessities of an ambulance district. Many times, and so my board, which I think we have one of my board members sitting behind me, we literally sat around a table, and this was a laundry list of how we can improve our own industry to improve the quality of healthcare delivered by these ambulance districts. And so we just feel like this is a good step in the right direction. Do I have any illusion that this bill is going to pass? You might hear folks raise concerns because we're pulling licenses if they don't do what their job is. The thing that I have seen is the good operators, the ambulance districts that do a really, really good job, and if you have an adjacent one that doesn't do a particularly good job and is deficient, a lot of times they'll call the good one and say, hey, will you mutual aid us and come over and send some ambulance services to cover our area? Well, what does that do? That obviously helps them in the short term, but it diminishes the ability of the district that does the mutual aid, which obviously is a healthcare risk for them. So we're just trying to roll this out, get the discussion going, and try to get a better ambulance service and level the playing field for us.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have a question? Senator Crawford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, again on that mutual aid, run that by, say that one more time.
So
I know
mutual aid.
I know what it is, but does this bill address that, or were you
No,
just
it
using
does
that
not.
for an example?
No, it does not. We like having mutual aid as a resource because, you know, what happens if you have a major catastrophic
Right.
event in your county? People come in full force. Some
Right.
folks use mutual aid just to do their day-to-day businesses, which I don't believe is what we want to do.
Right. Okay. I just heard you mention that, and I'm like, wait a second. Are we doing something different
No,
to
we are
that?
not.
Okay. All right.
Nope.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions for the witness? Senator Mosley.
So this also says that the department may refuse to issue, deny renewal of, and suspend a license. So if they find a problem with the department, they're not going to let them, they have the option to not let them get the license again? Is that
Correct. So we are granted, I don't know, is it an annual? I'm not sure exactly how our license, I think it's maybe every 5 years to that service, and if they come up for renewal. Right now, the Department of Health and Senior Services does not have that ability to go in and pull that license, and this bill gives them that authority.
So what specific issues have you seen?
I know of several that literally they decided to not run their ambulance services on a particular day. They have had board meetings or board members who do not know the first thing about how to run an ambulance district. We have administrators that I think need to be better prepared in today's technology because protocols change in the EMS world. And so we are just trying to provide better healthcare services to our state.
Are you able to state which ambulance departments? you're
I have a
having?
few. I'd hate to say them publicly, but I can meet with you privately. Most of them are very rural, very out. I would call outstate.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Any other questions for the witness? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else who'd like to testify in favor of? Good morning.
Excuse me. I'm Mark Alexander. I'm the EMS director at Cox Health. We run 6 counties of 911 service in southwest Missouri. I'm also a member of the State Advisory Council on Emergency Medical Services and the chairperson for the Missouri Ambulance Association Legislative Committee. We, as Brenda's aptly described, have labored over what actions we might take in order to be able to improve some of these areas. Sometimes it's a resource issue and a funding issue, and certainly those types of concerns can raise up in any kind of a service. However, if you're not educated as to the types of things you can do in order to remedy those circumstances, it makes it much more difficult. And that's some of the things that we're seeing, the lack of the education. Sometimes the director is just the most seasoned paramedic. They don't have leadership training. They don't have training in running a business. And so this attempts to try to at least begin to create a floor from which those skills can be developed. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to testify in favor of? Good morning.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Randy Scher representing Cole County and the EMS program here, as well as Eric Hoy, who is ill this morning, so I was a last-minute fill-in support of the bill. I couldn't add any more than what Brent has already added. As this develops and passes, looking at the certification and the education programming, we would be very interested in having the National Fire Academy training that we send all of our people to being approved as an approved provider of the education program or the training. So with that, I try to answer any questions. Sorry, my expert is not here.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for this witness? Senator Mosley.
So currently, there's no requirement to have any educational training to be on the board.
Well, this bill provides that training requirement and how it's certified by the advisory committee.
Okay.
And we're sending ours to one of the best in the country, and we just obviously we'd like to make sure that training is approved pursuant to this bill.
So where does yours go to?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Where does your members go to for the training? Since you
The
said it's
National
the best.
Fire Academy.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Not at this moment.
All right, seeing none. Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else who would like to testify in favor of? Seeing none, do we have anyone who would like to testify in opposition to? Seeing none, for informational purposes only. Seeing none, Senator Bernskoetter, do you have any closing remarks? Thank you, sir. That concludes the hearing. And now we're going to move on to Senator Trent, Senate Bill 1284. And Senator, begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Curtis Trent, representing Senate District 20. Senate Bill 1284 is a bill that's designed to address barriers that are slowing the license application process for counselors and delaying a provider's ability to be reimbursed for services. I think, as everyone knows, behavioral health provider shortages are limiting patients' access to care across the state. Currently, 112 of our counties are designated as mental health shortage areas. And part of this is because counselors are currently experiencing a 45 to 60-day wait time, sometimes even longer, after completing their applications. So language in this bill requires counseling applicants to be able to view a status of their application and any missing information that they might need to provide online within 15 business days. This will help address delays that are caused because an applicant just doesn't know the status of their application or what information that they still need to submit. Under this bill, license numbers must be made available electronically. The current process is a manual license verification that causes an additional 2-week delay. This bill also addresses billing issues for provisional licensed professional counselors. These professionals have completed the core requirements to perform their job but are undergoing supervision. PLPCs can start working under supervision once the board receives their application. However, the board does not issue a license until the application is officially reviewed and approved, and of course they cannot be reimbursed by Medicaid or commercial insurance until they have that license number. So we'll be happy to answer any questions. I think we probably have some witnesses here as well, and appreciate the committee's consideration.
Okay, are there any questions for the senator? Seeing none? Okay, so now who would like to, anybody here to testify in favor of? Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Committee. My name is Julie Pratt. I am a licensed professional counselor and have been for 20 years. I also work for Borough Behavioral Health. We are a community mental health center and certified behavioral health organization. I would like to start that we have been working with professional registration in regard to this bill and the language. This is a coordinated effort in trying to get this moved forward. Our organization is seeing consistent delays in the licensing process for professional counselors. We do not see the same delays in those applying for social work licenses or psychology license. And for an example, we have processing credentialing files for the new provisionally licensed and licensed counselors coming into our organization. For those provisionally licensed counselors, it's taking about 125 days for us to complete that process. Comparatively, it's only 85 days for those provisionally licensed social workers. So we're seeing a 40-day difference in the experience in that process between those two boards. Currently, the entire application process for the counseling board is manual. It's paper. Applications are mailed in. If there's anything missing from an application, something wrong with the check or other information needed, that is communicated back to the applicant via mail. It's a very manual process, and these time delays are crucial in getting individuals placed in their positions and providing services. I do have a specific example to share with you. We had a provisionally licensed counselor submit an application to the board through mail on July 17th. We expected that it would have been reviewed at committee when they met on October 5th. When no correspondence had been received, we contacted the state board on October 24th and were advised that the exam scores were missing from that applicant's packet. The applicant submitted those exam scores the next day on October 25th. We were finally able to confirm via phone call on November 17th that the license number was issued on November 9th. So we were looking from July 17th to November 9th for that process for this individual. I'd also like to add, the licensure board is not going to meet this month. The last time they met was on February 20th, and how that affects applicants. If anybody has submitted an application at the end of January, it will not be approved or heard until the next meeting, which occurs on April 14th. There's significant delays to client care. A provisionally licensed counselor in our system typically provides about 30 clinical interventions within their first month of employment, and that increases to about 95 clinical interventions by the end of the second month. So within the first 2 months of employment, a provisionally licensed counselor can provide a total of 125 clinical interventions, and that's just if we're experiencing a 2-month delay, that we're missing out on those opportunities to provide treatment to individuals, and we are seeing longer delays than that. There's an additional undue burden for both our organization's credentialing staff as well as the licensing board staff, because the State Board of Counselors does not utilize an online license lookup functionality for those provisionally licensed counselors. We are only able to accept direct communication from the State Board for confirmation of a license, and having that online lookup would save significant time for us in that process. Under this bill, Those provisionally licensed professional counselors will have that made to them electronically and will speed up that process. We do believe that this Senate bill does address barriers that are slowing the license application process and our ability to provide or to receive reimbursement for services. We have to have that actual license number to file with Medicaid and all other payers to receive reimbursement. So it does assist with us being able to be reimbursed for the services provided. So we value the professional registrations work, but when issues are identified, it is helpful to ensure that statute provides for an efficient process. So by addressing these administrative delays, we're hoping we can strengthen the behavioral health system in the state of Missouri where we have significant shortages.
Thank you. Is there any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. And we have anybody else who'd like to testify in favor of? Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Nikki Strong here on behalf of Preferred Family Health. I think this bill is a good, provide a good solution to the barriers we're experiencing. Professional counselors has some great solutions, and I have nothing more to offer from what a previous witness did.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Appreciate your testimony. Anybody else like to testify in favor of? Do we have anybody who would like to testify in opposition to? Seeing none. For informational purposes only. Seeing none. Senator Trent, do you have any closing remarks?
No, Madam Chair. Appreciate the committee's time and consideration.
Okay. So with that, thank you. With that, we have no further business coming before the committee. I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Got it. All those in favor? Aye. Those against? We are now adjourned. Here you go. Did you see him bouncing? I'm going to go ask him, why are you bouncing? You don't know your own strength.